Hey everyone, Sandy Butchers here for Red Ink. Today I want to give you a very powerful writing tool, and something tells me that you want to know what that tool is. Now, throughout all the long and short episodes Red Ink has been broadcasting, there has always been one thing that has been a sort of red line through what we have been trying to convey to you. That thing always comes down to what you can do as a writer to keep going, to get started, to basically sit down, put those hands to the keyboard, and start writing. So there's no surprise that what I'm talking about when I talk about a very powerful tool is the power of motivation. Now, as you may have noticed, we have a brand new website, and on that website there is a lot more space to start posting things than what we had before on Twitter. Because tweet lengths, they are very short and they can get to the point, but on our website we can actually write proper articles about getting started, about motivation, about what to do and how to do it. So we figured, let's do a little movie clip on getting motivated. So here we are. And there's a quote that I want to talk to you about today. And that quote is as follows. I'm going to read it to you off my screen. Inspiration may sometimes fail to show up for work in the morning, but determination never does. This is a quote by K.M. Wayland, and this is the reason I want to talk to you about this one. Inspiration may sometimes fail to show up. This is the moment where we experience writer's block or writer's blues, and no matter what name you give it to it. Inspiration is fleeting, I always say. It's something that you live in the moment with. It can be there, it can be gone, you can look for it, but, and now here's the secret, you can also inspire yourself. Now, there are many ways to inspire yourself, because obviously not everyone is going to be inspired the same way everyone else does. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some general tips just to get you into the right direction. And from there on, I really recommend that you are going to look for the way that fits best to what you need. All right? So the first thing you can do is go to Pinterest. And why I say go to Pinterest is for one very simple reason. Most writers have a separate picture brain somewhere in their heads. And with a picture brain, I mean we see things that aren't there. That's how we put things to word. We see something in our mind and we write that down. And that is basically, I think that, I read it somewhere, it is about between 75 and 85% of all writers have that pictures brain. They do that. They watch a movie inside of their head and they basically type it down. So how does Pinterest come in here? Pinterest is pure visuals. So you're going to trigger that brain, that picture brain inside there, to see things, to start associating things with other things. And it's basically a sort of rabbit hole. Allow yourself to go down that rabbit hole just by looking at pictures. The second thing you can do is do research. Why I say this is very simple, as most of these tips actually are. When you do research, you start focusing in on one particular thing. And some of you may recognize how that triggers different associations in our brain. So for example, and this is pretty much how Google works as well, you search for one thing, and within 3 to 4 clicks, you are on a completely different subject. Basically because it all just branches out. There are so many ramifications of what you are looking for. So when you start your research for a novel, and it could be anything, it could be trees in a specific region, it could be animals in, certain circumstances, or maybe different seasons or anything. And if you listen very carefully to what I say, I give you one example, but in each of these examples, there are already different subjects that can branch out. So my first example was about trees in different regions of the world. So we have trees, we have different regions of the world, and we actually have the world. So we can branch out 3 different ways here. We can look at trees, we can look at different regions, and we can look at the earth itself. So from there, I can branch out and I can look for these different subjects. Maybe I find that the earth is actually more interesting than the tree. And maybe from the Earth, I start looking at the Earth's past, and maybe suddenly I'm looking at Pangea, and this is all coming in my mind. These are the things that I think about when I start looking into the subject. So allow that brain to go through the different branches, and maybe you'll find something that is really interesting for you and for your novel that you're writing. So again, this is basically a matter of going down a rabbit hole. With Pinterest, we did it in a visual way, and by doing research, you are going to do this in a very content-related matter. The third thing you can do is write a short drabble. Now, I already did one short episode on what drabbling is and how you can get started with that. So I'm not going to talk about it too much right now. But if you are curious into how drabbling works, I am going to put a link down here in the descriptions to make sure you can get your hands on that little video clip. Now, the fourth and final way to get back into the writing flow and to actually get motivated is a fun little game that you can play. Now, this game requires 2 or more people. So, I don't know, maybe you can call your critique partners, you can call your writing friends, you can go back to that writing club, you can go out on Twitter and ask for people to share with you in a short little writing prompt. So here we go. What you're going to do is you're going to take turns. The first person is going to write a theme of a story. The second person is going to write a subject to a story. The third person, and considering that is, the more people you get, the farther you come without repeating who is taking turns on this. The third rule is to write down an object that is being used. And the fourth person is going to write down a location. So what's going to happen here is that you are going to have multiple people triggering something that you don't have control over. And control is actually very important when we talk about writer's block or writer's blues, because we feel like we have lost control. And the reason this game works so well is that we are going to have to accept that we are no longer in control, because we have other people deciding what we are going to write about. And mind you, this is a little exercise that can be used for a drabble, or it can be used for a very short story just to get back in the flow. So maybe 500 words, or maybe keep it to 1,000 words, whatever you're comfortable with. But the important part is, like I said before, this is about accepting that you are not in control. Control is good once you're in the flow. And the journey from a writer's block to actually going back into the flow is a journey where we need to understand that, okay, we have lost control. That's perfectly fine. Now I'm going to deal with the fact that there is imminent chaos. And that's fine. And at some point you are going to learn to love that, because inside that chaos, there are so many triggers that you can use in your advantage. So play this game. Have 4 rounds. And play with them. Write them down. Turn them into a story. Get back into the flow. Start typing again. And from there on, you'll see that you'll crawl back into your writing atmosphere. Your whole, the feeling will come back. All right. Okay. This was your daily writing motivation for today. Tomorrow I will probably have a nice little quote for you again, which I will be posting on Twitter. And I think after the weekend I am going to have some more tips to get back into the flow, to look at editing or look at pantsing or plotting. So stay tuned. And please do feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel. The link should be, I think, on this side of the screen, or maybe, I don't know. I always forget which side of the screen it is. But please do subscribe, because you will be one of the first to get the notifications once we post another movie clip. All right. Thanks so much, guys, and I'll be seeing you around.